Justice can be a war maker. When you shout justice, it may divide us. Justice could be on the list of weapons. Even hell is paved with good intentions. When we realize we don't know anything, we can open hearts humbly. There is no battle for justice, no reason to criticize. There is no reason to divide us. Can we walk together? Can we walk together? I am ready. We are ready. We are ready.
Hello, good evening, everyone. And if you're watching this from the Japan or other place, maybe good morning or good afternoon. So thank you very much for joining us today. This is the Nagasaki Day, and we have Interfaith Peace Gathering here today. And so those people who came for the August 5th, which is the time that we ring the bell, 7:15 p.m. on August 5th, which is equivalent to the August 6th in Japan, 8:15 a.m. And today is a Nagasaki Day, which atomic bombers dropped on 11:02 a.m. in Nagasaki time, Japan time, August 9th. And so which is the equivalent to August 8th here in New York at 10:02 p.m. So this program we will continue. So before that, we will cover some of the way to commemorate. One of the theme that I have this year is reflecting past and present and future. So there's the elements first for the past. We learn from the past, and then these are very important. So you cannot ignore the past, or you cannot ignore the future, or just present, possibly for the Buddhist sense, but yet the everything present means the resulted from the past, and the future is resulting from the present. And so it's always all connected, and then we need to be mindful of those. So that's one thing we have, and then also bringing a peace through various views, revisions, and beyond professions too. So different professional will be joining us too today. And to begin with, we'll start from the past, and I think that's normally the way we do, I guess. And so for that, I have Mr. Taku Nishimae, and he's founder of what do you call it? One Future. So, Taku-san, can you take over from here? And then please
Yes,
introduce
thank you.
yourself more if you like to add
Yes,
more. And then we do have a guest for you too, so maybe later I will introduce. First of all, please.
wonderful. Thank you, TK, as always. This is 29th year you're doing this. It's amazing that the Hiroshima and Nagasaki Day commemoration in New York City, and which is becoming, had become already the staple for us to remember the past and pray for the future. So thank you very much for be part of this. And I'd like to present our project called Future Memory. And I'm a filmmaker, but I also produce educational contents. And Akira Fujimoto, the artist, and Canon Hersey, my partner, he's also an artist, came up with this idea of capturing the whole exhibit hall of Hiroshima Peace Memorial Museum in 3D, virtual reality format. So we created this in 2020, the commemoration of 75th anniversary. It's been 2 years, more than 100,000 people visited the museum through virtual means on this. So I'd like to share this with you. And today we have Chris experiencing this with us. Hello, Chris.
Hi, nice to meet you. Thank you for taking
Hi,
us
how are you
on a
doing?
tour.
Wonderful. So you've been to Hiroshima or museum?
No, I went to Nagasaki 7 years
Ah,
ago, and I planned
okay.
to go to Hiroshima last October, but I still couldn't get into the country.
That's right. Well, near future. So this is your preview in a way to be in Hiroshima, to be in the museum. And of course, we want to do this for Nagasaki Museum as well in the near future. So here is the contents to be shared. Can you see this, Chris?
Yes, I can see.
Yes. That's the our interface of contents, which is future memory. OneFuture.jp. You can visit this museum, go to 3D portrait of museum. This is the museum format. And now you're at the entrance of the museum. And let me see, can I make this bigger? It is a little bit bigger.
It is. That's good.
Okay, wonderful. So this is the entrance of the museum. And you can maneuver this castle so that you can walk into the museum and you can just place your castle and go to places within the museum. So you can go anywhere at your pace and whatever you'd like to see. This is the entrance hall, and you can see the photos. What we usually take a lot of time, especially when you're first time. You should take a good amount of time to observe each exhibit. You can zoom in to these photos, and you can read these accounts vividly with the museum experience. So this hopefully is a highly educational material. People can learn as if you're visiting the actual museum. And of course, it's best to visit the actual museum, go to Hiroshima and go to Peace Memorial Museum. But not everybody can do it. So this is the second best thing. This is Mr. Tsuboi, who just passed away last November, and the very famous Hibakusha. And there are lots of stories in each photos in each exhibit. This is entrance pass to the main hall. As you can see, you would experience the mushroom crowd, go through the crowd. And first thing you see is this entrance hall. This is not easy thing to watch, but this is school children who were there. And this exhibit, this version of exhibit at Memorial Museum is focusing on people's name, faith, their life, what kind of life they had or they could have. So I think it's pretty amazing how they did it, because it's so um, I couldn't walk through at first. It took me 6 hours
It's
to
very
see everything.
moving.
Yeah, it's and this is, Chris, we should spend more time later. This is such a unbelievable exhibit, and I want you to kind of take it all in. But this is a little bit abbreviated version because of time. So you could see this is a stunning view of clothes of children, war, and many of them deceased, atomic bombing. But people donated those clothes so that people can remember. As you can see, some of them are burnt and has scars, and you could just imagine what happened to those 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old. Majority of 12-year-old, like a first grader of middle school, were working. Younger children were with parents, sometimes with remote places, but the 13-year-old, 12-year-old, they were gakuto doing. They had to work in the factories, or they're working in cleaning the street. So they're part of the workforce. So many of the middle school first grader died in the middle of the city. So you could see all these artifacts, but I'd like to show you one particular one, and there's lots of gut-wrenching photos. Again, you should take a look at it one by one. Lots of storytelling materials. And this is the one I always stop at with my student and talk about things. Chris, do you know what it is?
Is it a wall?
Right. It's a step of the Sumitomo Bank, right under the detonation point. So apparently there was a person here, and it casts a shadow, massive, the flash and also the heat left a shadow of a person. So it's called human shadow etched in stone, hitokage no ishi, shadow people stone, it's called. So I saw this when I was 15. Every 15-year-old in western part of Japan go to Hiroshima Museum as part of the school trip. So I was 15 when I saw this, and I was totally stunned by this image. It's still to this day, I remember this.
I remember reading about that, but I never actually saw it.
Yeah. So, and I've been thinking about this. I read John Hersey's Hiroshima when I was in high school. In American high school, I read Hiroshima and learned more about the human toll, what happened in Hiroshima. But this image just tells us many stories. But one story I always remember is like, what kind of person was this? Is he, she, or he? We don't know. It just erased by this superpower. And what kind of murder is this? What kind of weapon is this? Just strip away face, name, identity, any story, any dreams was just stripped away, erased by heat and atomic bomb. So I think this tells the ultimate inhumane aspect of atomic bombing. The other day, I was showing this to TK and James, reverends, and of course, people stop at this image of Buddha. This was found in the rubble of a temple. And many people, I always do this, but many people just stop here and pray because it's Buddha. It's damaged, never repaired. They kept it as is to show the damage it caused, the atomic bomb caused to temple. And temple was the total rubble and nothing left but the Buddha. So these, and each one of these artifacts, each one of these objects, I don't know how many, maybe 1,000 objects here, and then there are more than 10,000 objects kept in the storage. So we saw many of them in the storage as well, and been making. I'm a filmmaker, so I'm making a documentary about those artifacts and telling those stories. So once again, this is very short amount of time we can spend today, but this exhibit can be experienced. Once again, the best thing is to be there, to go to Hiroshima and watch this
Sorry to bother
in
you.
person. Yeah.
Today you have double time.
Okay.
Half an hour. So you still
Okay.
have more time to go.
I'm sorry. I was kind of rushing.
Yeah, no, last time you only have 15 minutes.
15
but
minutes, yes.
Today
yes.
we have a half an hour. So that's why we started earlier.
Yeah. So Chris, this is one of the most talked about object, and it's a tricycle. It's children's tricycle. It's like about 1.5 foot small tricycle for 3-year-old. And this was given to Shinchan, this boy, when he was very little. And Shinchan loved this tricycle. He was riding this every day, everywhere, and playing with it, and with his kids, and with his friend, and with his sister, right here. So this is known as Shinchan's tricycle, Shinchan's Sanrinsha, and the tricycle. And you can read the description here. But the Shinchan was killed by atomic bombing. He didn't die instantaneously. He died after suffering entire body burned. So he suffered all day, all night, and he died the next day. And of course, parents lived. Shinchan and his sister died because they were in the backyard. They were, unfortunately, were direct exposure to the heat and the flash of the atomic bombing. And so did the Sanrinsha. The tricycle was exposed. So when there was no place to bury them because the family graveyard was destroyed, and there are tens of thousands of people just got killed and forgotten, and they had to pile up the body and had to burn them all over the city. The tens of thousands of body without knowing who they are. So still to this day, many people are missing. I mean, they know that my father, my uncle, my sister, my son died somewhere, but many people don't know where they are. So that's the reality of massive killing, 140,000 people killed within the 1945, and it's still killing people, every day. That's another aspect of atomic bombing. It keeps killing. But Sanrinsha, the tricycle, is especially most talked about because it's for young children, and tricycle is something that anyone can ride. You have some memory with tricycle anywhere in the world. So people talk about this and remember this story. Shinchan was buried in the backyard of his house. Tetsutani family parents buried him, and buried him with Sandinsha. The tricycle was buried together. So so that Shinchan's parents, father thought that, okay, Shinchan, you can play with Sandinsha when you are on your way to heaven. So that was the story. But 40 years later, 1985, I believe, it was time for, there's a proper graveyard restored, and the parents are getting old. So they thought it's a good idea to give him a proper service and proper grave, to be in the family grave. So they dug out, and Shinchan was there. Tiny 3-year-old skeleton were there, and they dug further and they found Sandinsha. So as if tricycle was holding Shinchan and kind of like a protecting Shinchan all the way. So they dug it out, and they were like, oh, in this state, but they thought they're not going to be able to throw it away. So of course they kept it, and they eventually donated to the museum. So it's been in this place since 1989. And the museum took a very good care of it. So that it's not going to deteriorate. It's steel, so it can go bad, but they kept it as is. But you can see how it was damaged and it was buried, but it kept on being. It kept on being.
And Shinchan
Yeah,
can teach us.
exactly. So I always remember Shinchan's story. There was a picture book written about Shinchan's Sandinsha, Shinchan's tricycle. I think English version is available. So this is one of the story that people never remember, never forget, and always remember tricycle. So this room is also featuring children, young children, middle school kids, and there is another one of those. Oops. This is also the middle school student, 中学生, middle schooler was wearing this, and they died in this clothes. They kept it as is. And remarkable thing about this version of exhibit is like they put almost for every object, every clothes they found, because it's donated too, they found out their name, their face, their stories. What did they like? What kind of kid they are? So you can read their life story, and their life story could have been. So it's a remarkable exhibit to put, restoring the names, restoring the dignity of people.
Makes it very personal.
Yep. So yeah, I get very emotional on these objects, and the first time I visited this version, I spent 6 hours and I couldn't finish, because it was too much to take in and think about, because there's so much, well, first of all, information, but also these photographs. We didn't have this before, but these photos tells a lot of stories, girls, boys, men, women, on their Sunday's best, life that it was is displayed. So I was very impressed with how curators and the museum people thought this through. It's not just about destruction and death, it's about life. Yeah, these dresses are really, you know, really cute, and and some of them are damaged like this. And of course, you think about what kind of life that was. So Kuri-san, we could do a long version, and which I do with my students, sometimes with curators. Beatrice Finn of ICANN has been our kind of a partner on this project. So they are using to show this to campaigners. ICANN has more than 600, NPOs, and they have tens of thousands of campaigners all around the world. But not many people could come to Hiroshima and experience the museum. So this is the second best thing to learn about impact. And if you ask anyone who visited the museum, including Mr. Obama, the former American president, this changed your life. Going through this changes your perspective, thus changes your life. It certainly did for me when I was 15.
I wish
And
everyone could go there.
yes, that's what I'm thinking. I think this is, if you ever talk about nuclear weapons, disarmament, or if you ever talk about war, whether you're a politician or educator or regular citizens, I think this should be the starting point. This should be the common understanding of what war does and what nuclear weapon does to people. Yeah, these fountain pens are also very famous. Nice pens. And now they know the owner of these pens. Some of them are adult, but many of them are young, middle school students. So I hope everyone should be there, but I hope this virtual experience can provide something. It's second best, but it's something that you can experience anywhere in the world, anytime, anywhere. So anyone can experience this, at least on the virtual version of this.
It can be shared in schools too.
Yeah. I hope we just did this on August 6th, day before yesterday, at Tokyo University had a very nice gathering in New York City, inviting Hibakusha survivors and activists and talk about the education. And they want to create some kind of educational program out of this experience. It's a virtual experience, so you could just walk through on your own, but it could be a wonderful educational program. So I think this is Sadako-san. Yeah, Sadako is here. So Sadako's story is very, very much told and now well known, and especially in American schools, because they are reading a lot of stories, which is wonderful. And there are some of the original orizuru, the paper cranes Sadako made. And lots of people, foreign dignitaries, including President Obama, folded senbazuru, the paper crane, and donated to the museum. That's another form of sharing the common understanding of atomic bombing, because the Sadako's story is very important because she died 10 years later, after the bombing. So this is very sad, but very important stories that anyone can relate to. And I think it's very important to share those common understanding. And that's the idea of future memory. Future memory, why is it called future memory? You know, we Akira Fujimoto and Canon Hersey did a wonderful job. Really think about this and create the virtual. This is a experiential art, meaning that you create your own memory. If you go through this, even virtually, now it's your memory. It's not somebody else's memory. It's your memory. And thus you create the future with this renewed memory. That's why we call it future memory. So hopefully we can share. Some 100,000 people already seen this, but more people. I hope every 15-year-old or every 18-year-old around the world should watch this. And every politician, especially every politician who controls nuclear weapons, should be here and should watch this type of things.
Definitely.
Yep. So this is the exit.
Wow.
More grueling photos. Yeah, so I was impressed with the last photo. The last version, before this version, the last photo was the flower, kana flower, that bloomed in the spring of 1946. That gave hope. So that was a beautiful photo of life after death. But this is photo of a young child and who were born right after the bombing. So mother was very worried that she's going to lose her, but she was born. So that gave not only the family, but the family members, communities, everyone hope. There's interesting side story of this photo because it was famous. People didn't know who he is because there is no record. Record was lost, where and who and how this was taken. And NHK actually spent a lot of years and a lot of time and found this girl, now 77-year-old. She lives in Saitama. And she didn't know that her photo exists, but it did. So NHK did a wonderful job, bring her here. And her mother died young. So this girl, now old lady, didn't know what hope her mother had. So this was the record. I think its photographer recorded this, that the mother's wish for the young child to live in the fullest, and for the people who deceased. And
It's a wonderful ending.
So I love this end, the end of the exhibit. Lots of death and lots of gut-wrenching stories about how people got lost. But I think this entire exhibit is like really restoring the people's lives and people's dignity by putting names, face, stories, and lots of life in this exhibit.
It must have been very difficult to work on, but
Yep.
it's wonderful.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. This is end, so you go out there, and I usually stop here in the passageway so that you can just take a little breather. And there's you can see the Genbaku Dome here, so that it's a nice remembrance of how they rebuilt the Peace Park. Genbaku Dome, of course, they kept it, but the Tange, the architect, did the beautiful design of the whole Peace Park, straight from the Genbaku Dome to the epitaph and to the museum center. That's the center. That's the prayer is kind of resonating throughout. So I always stop here and kind of download with the people who just experienced the museum, and and have lunch after this. So that's what I do when I'm in Hiroshima. But I can do that anywhere now with this exhibit.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Do you
much.
have information? You want to share the information where you can get to the? This is also any public can access to this.
Anyone can go to onefuture.jp. So that's our URL. So go to onefuture.jp, and then you come to the front page first, and then go to future memory. Here is this future memory thingy, and there's 3D portrait of a museum. That's the museum experience.
So we can Google for One Future.
Onefuture.jp. Yes.
I just put it in the chat.
Yes.
Oh, great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
That's right. I should have done that. Yeah.
I hope you enjoy the tour, and
Thank
you
for the
can
tour.
visit when you have.
Great. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so
Yep.
much.
Mhm.
Little more time, but then we need more and more time.
Go ahead. We're gonna run out of time anyway.
Okay. All right. Well,
Thank you very much.
Taku. Thank you, Nishimae-san.
Thank you.
ありがとうございました。Thank you.
Later.
And so this is something that wonderful. It's always this is actually 29th year for us to have Interfaith Peace Gathering of Hiroshima Nagasaki Atomic Bombing. And recently we started doing both day, Hiroshima Day and Nagasaki Day. And then, by the way, I forgot to mention at the very beginning, we show some of the short film introduction of this events. So it actually started 1994, and then year now 2022. So it's a 29th part. And every year, the August 5, we started, and then so then now, still continue somehow. And I think it's like a peace walk too, we need to continue, I think later on some of the film talk about that too, but continuation is a very important, patient, really. And so that you can just go, it could be slow, like a total walk, but yet, go step by step, going towards the goal and going closer, hopefully, to the peace as well. So I thank you again. And then the beginning part of the music was Lulla LayLa put up the new music. I don't know whether you remember, we have that picture, the very beginning one, at the 75th anniversary, but then we added to a couple of different parts and then we changed the music. And so even that picture itself is evolving. And okay, now this is called Interfaith Peace Gathering. So interfaith part is always important for me because I'm Buddhist priest. So we cannot bring the peace just among the Buddhists or just my school of Buddhism, but we need to have everyone or the different religions, to be part of this session too. So I have. This is a fireworks of the what do you call prayer. So since it's August, this is a fireworks season, I guess. Yesterday also, even I guess Mount Fuji restaurant they have a summer festival. They had the those fireworks too. So anyhow. So this is the interfaith fireworks. So various different tradition given all the prayers. So, okay. So if you're ready, we'll begin. So place your palms together, but at the same time, you can do it together with a prayer with different religious leaders from New York, actually. Well, some of them in California and so forth. So I guess from the United States. Okay.
I'm Chloe Breyer, a director at the Interfaith Center of New York. Eternal God, in whose perfect kingdom no sword is drawn, but the sword of righteousness. No strength is known, but the strength of love. Amen. Heiwa. Peace.
My name is Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi, and I am at the Buddhist Association of the United States. I offer this prayer that the world may recognize the foolishness and the danger of resorting to nuclear weapons, and that all countries may rapidly embark on a path of complete disarmament and abandoning of nuclear weapons. Heiwa. Thank you.
I am Rabbi Joseph Potasnik, Executive Vice President of the New York Board of Rabbis. 3 Hebrew letters, you can form 2 other words. One is lochein, that means to fight. The other is cholein, that means to dream. Tragically, in this world, there are some people who have to fight for a piece of bread. There are others who sadly only dream to fight. But we who have learned about the horror of the past, we continue to fight for a dream. May we continue, our different communities, to build that place where we work together finding peace and Heiwa. Amen.
I'm Bante Kondanyan from Staten Island Buddhist Vihara. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Bhavatu sabba mangalang rakhantu sabba devata sabba buddhanupamena sada sotti bhavantu te. May all beings be well, happy and peace. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Hello. My name is Audrey Kitagawa. I'm the chair of the Parliament of the World's Religions. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. And may all beings be blissful. Om, peace, peace, peace. Heiwa, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Hi, my name is Minyu from New York. Namo Photo, Namo Dhammo, Namo 僧伽。祈愿三宝加倍，世界和平，战争永息，社会祥和，人民安乐。
This is Freeman Su from Tzu Chi Foundation, USA Northeast Region. We will give the blessing to the anniversary of atomic bombing. May all people's heart be purified, and may the world be free of disaster. Heiwa, Amitofo.
I salute you from South America. I am Reverend Susana Bastarrica, the founder organizer of the Vigil for Peace and Ecology. We intend that we are guided, guarded, and protected at all times. We intend that all of our thoughts, words, and deeds serve the highest and greatest goods for all humanity, as well as the highest and greatest goods for the whole universe. We align, so it is, and so it always will be. In peace, my greetings, my love, for the nation of Hiroshima, for the world. In peace, Amen. My love goes to you.
This is Bawa Jain. I am the Secretary General of the World Council of Religious Leaders, the founder president of the Center for Responsible Leadership. Om Namo Arihantanam, Namo Siddhanam, Namo Airiyanam, Namo Vajayanam, Namo Loe Savasahunam, Eso Panchanamo Karo Savapavapanasano. Manglanancha Savesing Paramang Havai Mangalam. Heiwa, Om Shanti.
Hello,
Greeting from New York. My name is Pico Konda. I am a Cambodian monk, here born of Wat Yutanara. Yawiato sa pemyang kalyang myang kua tiang puang chol mien dal nea kanto sa pati wata som te wada tiang a chol mien dal nea oi ban sop ka sop vili. Heiwa, peace.
Hello, my name is Ken Cassell, Zen Master Jokum from the Quantum School of Zen. Chi Jung Bo Sal, 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 Chi Jung Bo Sal. Heiwa, peace.
My name is Dorothy Walsh. I'm a peace chaplain from the Peace Abbey in Sherborne, Massachusetts. The prayer is from the World Day of Peace, October 27, 1986. Though the people living across the ocean surrounding us, I believe, are all our brothers and sisters, why are there constant troubles in this world? Why do winds and waves rise in the ocean surrounding us? I only earnestly wish that the wind will soon puff away all the clouds which are hanging over the tops of the mountains. Heiwa, paz, peace, namaste.
I am Venerable Clint from the Dhammakaya International Meditation Center in New Jersey. Each of us are like a candle. Alone, we cannot shine very brightly, but together, we can be a beacon of light, and we can share this light of peace with the world. Heiwa, peace.
Reverend Katsuyaki Tsunoki, Jodo Shinshu Shin Buddhist minister. Please bow our heads and join me in Gassho. Put the hands together. Wherever the Buddha travels, there is no place which does not benefit from his virtue. Peace and harmony reign throughout the land. The land is prosperous and the people live in peace. So there is no need to use soldiers and weapons. The Sutra on the Buddha of Immeasurable Life. Namo Amida Butsu.
Namaste, dear friends in Hiroshima. Blessing to all. I am chanting Hindu Vedic prayers for healing anniversary of the atomic bombing. Yoga samasta sukino bhavantu. Yoga samasta sukino bhavantu. Yoga samasta sukino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Peace Peace Peace.
My name is Toyon Park from Won Buddhism of Manhattan. 법신 정정 본무의 아득회강 역부여 대화 원기성 일란 사막 쥐자 소멸. 해와 peace 평화.
This is Eric Shoke Manigian from the Buddhist Action Coalition with the Verse of Atonement. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. Heiwa, peace.
This is Imam Muhammad Shahidullah, the president of Interfaith Center of USA. I am offering a prayer for peace from Islamic tradition. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. Thanks. Amen.
My name is Ruifa. I'm the Chinese Buddhist monk from Chinese Buddhist community in New York. I am the Vice President of Buddhist Council of New York. 众生传三千，
Hi, my name is James Lynch. I'm the current president of the Buddhist Council of New York, and I want to offer a brief prayer on behalf of the victims of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Let it be known that this is the blaze of the way. Here the Buddha's attains supreme enlightenment. Here the Buddha's learn the Dharma wheel. Here the Buddha's Endambari Nirvana. Namo Myo Renge Kyo. Importantly, Heiwa peace.
Konnichiwa. This is Reverend Susanna Macomb. I am the Director of Global Outreach and Interworship for World Awake, and to the survivors and the descendants of the survivors of the nuclear bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and to all the people of Japan. Our prayer is simple. You are not forgotten. You are not alone. May your wounds be dissolved in an ocean of love. May such horrors never happen again. Heiwa, peace.
Tashidele konnichiwa. My name is Gishitashi Durje. I'm Buddhist monk. Lo dunju tengen wendo niwanji sakwe Hiroshima nangdo barze wodo tseso shoba namji chedo dongsen nyamje da jichen women shugyu. Melam gyabo deda choji so taye drowa kunla penje jin kundo sambo gembe shundo nyason juna mali tombara sho Heiwa.
My name is TK Nakagaki from the Buddhist Council of New York. 願わくはこの功徳をもって平等に一切に施し同じ久保大神を起こして安楽国に往生せん。南無帰依仏、南無帰依法、南無帰依僧。Heiwa, peace. Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. So the prayers, actually we added some Japanese also this time. And so I hope you have the way to pray yourself for the peace. And I think, sometimes people might think just the mind, having prayer itself may have not much of the power or something, but yet actually the Buddhism, we have three actions we're always thinking of. One is action of mind, action of the body, or mouth even, and then action of the body. So three are basically actions. So having such mind or develop mind, cultivate their own mind of peace is actually very good. You're focusing on a peace always, right? And then if your mind is peaceful, then the way you talk should become also peaceful too, I guess. But of course, we just get angry and just change the words. But yet, try to be peace. More have peace amount in your mind than the anger amount, then definitely you can balance it that way. and then actions comes out of the mind. If you have a feeling you wanted to do something, then you start moving your body too, so that mind will be the one of the most important part from that sense. Okay, but anyway, so I hope you have opportunity to do that. Now, for this peace ceremony, one thing we also wanted to include as much as we can is actually the real voice of the witness, the people who experienced the war. I mean, the atomic bomb. And first of all, I would like to have Mr. Tomiko West. Actually, because she's supposed to be come up on Earth, the 5th, but in the somehow, this is a recorded version, but then because of a little technical difficulty, we couldn't show it. So I'd like to share her comments today. Okay, so Tomiko West, she was actually born in Hiroshima, and she was 13 years old when she experienced the atomic bomb. And so anyway, so yeah, we have that talk here, so please watch it. And then this will be also followed by various short version of the people feeling some correction of the couple experience their feeling about nuclear weapons, especially these are from Nagasaki one. So I just have a little short version of it. So maybe if we can somehow continue to watch it, that would be great. Thank you.
First of all, I like to introduce myself.
Yes,
my name is Tomiko Morimoto West, and right now I am 90 years old. But when I experienced the atomic bomb, I was only 13, and so the day started with such a fine day, and I viewed the B-29 that was flying above us. And we learned to identify the airplane by the sound, and the B-29 makes like that kind of sound. I was said, oh, here it is. So it's only one plane. So I thought they were just they came to take a picture. So I said, oh, all of a sudden I saw the shine, the light, very bright, and never knowing that was atomic bomb because never been used before. And I was in high school, but at that time we had to give up studying, and we had to work for some of the factories for war effort for the government. So that's why I was in the this factory where we printed for governmental. It's a printing place.
Are you outside or you're inside of the printing place?
Just outside, because it was a chole. We have a meeting before we start something. That's when it was. But luckily, I think I was in a shade. I feel that I was in. I lost all my classmates, but luckily I guess God was with me, if that's what you want to say. And so, anyways, after that, I had to keep on running to the place. The fire was coming behind me, so we only had to run to where there was no fire. I ended up in Mount Koi, that's in Hiroshima. And so there we had to stay overnight, and I saw Hiroshima burning all night long. And next day, the teacher said we can go home if somebody would have come to meet us, but of course nobody came to meet us. So in the meantime, I had known that they died already. But anyways, so I started walking home, and the saddest thing I saw was a little baby was sucking on mother's breast, and mother was already dead. And even today, I often wonder what happened to the baby. I guess the baby died, I'm sure. So after walking all the way home, I have seen a lot of very sad the view everywhere, and all the we had a soldier, Japanese soldier, war was not ended yet, and so Japanese soldiers they come and asking me for the water, but I had no water myself, and so I just felt very terrible not being able to give people what they wanted, and I finally reached home. My house was the other end of Hiroshima, so and I went to the where the home was. It was already burned down, and my neighbor's lady said, "I did not see your mom, but I saw your grandparents." So they had evacuated to the bomb shelter. I went there, and they were there, but of course my grandfather was uh, all the glasses pierced all over his body, and of course my grandmother was not in very good shape. But then I saw them, but in the meantime my mother was killed instantly elsewhere, but I didn't know that till a few days later, and so I have experienced very sad things, but now I think about it, so I just feel that that's what made me very strong person that I am today. One thing I like to tell people: when you leave your home, please hug each other and tell each other how much you love them, because that might be your last time you see them, and that is always my message on it. Because when I left the home, I was very mean, and I talked back to my mother, and I slammed the door and never saw her again. And yes, and I'm still repenting. And I said to mom, I'm sorry, but when you're 13, sometimes the kids are very rebellious, I think, I think that was very bad age for me at the time. So anyway, that's my story.
The Hope of Nagasaki is just a short part of that film that they made, which I understand was very good. So I hope you have chance you can see the whole movie, but that's available. If can share that, it would be great.
助けてくれて足にすがられたって。
水分が一瞬にパッと蒸発してしまうんです。そしてこの肉とそして皮とかベラーッと剥がれてしまう。
もう折り重なってるんですね、死体が。で触ると皮がペロッとむけてで動いてるんですって。
ああ、もう今思い出してもドキドキする。
先輩方を思い出すと、もう胸が詰まって涙が出るんです、私。
それをいくらね口で言おうと思ってもね伝えきれませんもんね。
それはなんで話せなかったんですかね。
なんてですね、私も
死なんでもよかったのに、そういう子学校に行かならいいんですよ。そんな学校でいじめられるなら。
こんな長生きするってもうやだ。
僕たちも原爆でやけどをしましたけど、いまだにこうしておられるっていうことは最高じゃないですか。
Thank you so much. So these are some of the, the voices from the witness. So it's very different when you experience and, just, you just create the, what do you call it, sense of something much bigger than we think, or, so anyway, experience tells a lot of things, not just the intelligence and so forth, but real feeling, the real, smells and everything's there with their memory. So now I would like to have a little art for peace. And so this year is the first time we have a Kabuki art, Japanese Kabuki. Hashigo Nakamura-san will be the person who play. And there's a story explaining at the beginning, so you can read it. But it's about the UN bell, UN peace bell. And somehow peace bell does not ring. Well, that's still the same. So we need to ring the bell, but then somehow we try to ring it this time because of NPT conference going on at the UN. So possibly they might ring the bell if we request it, strongly, especially August 6th and August 9th. Or August 5 in the evening, or the August 8th in the evening. So, but somehow, they don't want to ring the bell. It's a peace bell, but yet they can't even ring this time. But then if they can't ring, maybe we can just ring our own bell. Each one has those bells too, so bringing the peace bell and just bringing within your mind, within yourself. And so I hope you can experience that with this particular kabuki. Here we go.
き声叫び声世界各地にくすぶる鐘が嘆きし印ねおるけいでこの上は中川千代治先生の志習い覚えし願文の功徳なもって上下の雲を取り払い再び金をならとし世界絶対平和これ国家民族宗教一層を超え
So that was Kabuki. I hope you enjoyed his performance, Hashigo Nakamura. And now we have some speakers this time, and Mr. Nobuto Hirano, who is known as he's an educator first of all, but he probably known because he started the high school peace ambassador. And there are many parts that he's been contribute, especially for the future. So from here, how people can think of the futures, and then maybe like to share with his part of the comments. So, yeah. よろしく。
ニューヨークの皆さん、こんにちは。
平野信人先生にお話を伺います。
はい。
では一つ目からですね、高校生平和大使のこの活動、始められたきっかけ、教えていただけますか。
はい、今こういうふうに活動してるんですけど、25年前に私がこの高校生平和大使を始めた頃は、もうこういう平和の問題とか、それから社会的な問題に若い人が全く関心を示さないという時期がありました。それで、被爆者も高齢化をするし、私は被爆2世なんですけど、私たちもだんだん高齢化をして、その被爆体験を引き継ぐ者が全くいないという状況で、そのことに危機感を感じて、なんとか若い人たちをその平和の問題につけようと思って、平和大使を考え出しました。
長年続けられてきているんですけれども、今皆さん活気のある話し合いされてますけれども、今の活動をご覧になっていかがですか。
そうですね、25年の間に、高校生平和大使として国連なんかでジュネーブの国連に行った子どもたち高校生はですね429人います。それでも代表としてその子たちが行って活動に参加した高校生はですね6000人います。
多いですね。
はい。それで、その6000人の高校生はもう社会の中軸になっています。平和の心を持って、各いろんな分野で活躍をしているので、大変頼もしく思っています。
皆さんに対する将来の展望ですとか、何か期待するものっていうのはありますか？
人に対する優しい心を持った、人間らしい人間になってもらえば、私はもう本当に満足です。戦争も原爆もない、平和な世界を作るにはですね、やはり優しい心を持つと、でとりわけ弱い人に、対する温かみというか、障害を持たされた人とか、それからジェンダーの問題であるとか、弱い立場にいる人の味方になれるような人間になってもらいたいなというふうに思っています。私もそういうふうに、心がけています。
そして、この活動でいうと微力だけど無力じゃないという言葉、とてもいいなと思うんですけれども、誰が考えられたのか、そしてそこにどんな意味が込められているのか教えてください。
はい、2001年のニューヨーク同時多発テロがありました。その時が、私たちの高校生大使がちょうどジュネーブから帰ってきて、さあ来年、もう頑張るぞというような話し合いをしていた時にそのテロ事件が起こりました。で、高校生の中にですね、いくら自分たちがそういう署名活動をやっても、その戦争や紛争はなくならない、テロもなくならない、署名なんかをやるのは無意味だというような人が出てきました。何度もこのような話し合いを続けていくうちに、誰 かをもう覚えてませんが、微力だけれどもやり続けることが大事なんだ。いつかは、この自分たちの願いが花咲くことがあるんではないか。そこで、微力だけど無力ではないという言葉が生まれました。で、今も子どもたちっていうか高校生のそのスローガンになっています。私もそのことを、いつも考えながら、生きています。
今年した平和宣言文の基礎委員会でもね、このフレーズが出てきたので、
そうですね、
多くの方にね響くといいですね。
そうですね。本当にいい言葉だし、歴史がある重みのある言葉だと思います。しっかり受け止めていきたいと思います。
この映像をご覧になっているのはニューヨークの式典、
はい、
そしてこのオンラインで見ている方なんですけれども、最後に皆さんにメッセージをお願いします。
はい。私の母は被爆者です。103歳ので今でも元気に、恵みの丘原爆ホームという被爆者ばっかり集まっている、施設の中で、安らかに余生を送っています。でも103歳の彼女がですね、いまだに、平和は大切だ、そして、戦争はあってはならないということを繰り返し言っています。私もそのように思います。何をするにもですね、平和が一番というその気持ちを持ち続けて、生きていきたいと思います。ニューヨークの皆さんもぜひ私たちとフレンドリーな関係を持って、一緒にまた、会えることがあれば大変嬉しいと思います。共に頑張りましょう。みんな手を振らめ。
頑張りましょう。
頑張りましょ
う。皆さんこんにちは。私たちは核兵器の廃絶と平和な世界の実現を求める高校生1万人署名活動のメンバーです。今日は長崎からメッセージを届けています。私たちは年間を通して核廃絶、そして平和な世界の実現を求める署名活動を行っています。これからも私たちは世界中の皆さんと共に平和の実現を訴えていきたいと思います。これからも応援よろしくお願いします。ありがとうございました。
Thank you for the wonderful message and of Hirano-san. So he was one of the very instrumental person for young people, especially high school. And 6,000 people is amazing to have such people who went through all those programs in the past. And so we have the speaker Mari Inoue-san. And she has been, organizing various part of the nuclear issues, including the one in Fukushima too. But even a couple of days, Friday, the August 5, they do have a lunchtime at in front of the Japanese consulate. They have kind of commemoration in front and then requesting to Japan to hopefully support more for this NPT things and as well as nuclear issues. So anyway, so if you wanted to add anything, please do, Inoue-san, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Nakagaki-san, for organizing this wonderful event. So, hello everyone. My name is Mari Inoue. I'm a co-founding member of Mahan Project for Nuclear Free World. And let me show you my presentation. I'm with the group called Mahan Project for Nuclear Free World, which is a group that started in 2012, 1 year after the Fukushima disaster. And we raise awareness about the costs, risks, and humanitarian consequences of nuclear energy and nuclear weapons. And we reach out to policymakers, elected officials, and collaborate with peace, anti-nuclear, and environmental groups in Japan. And The one that Nakagaki-san mentioned earlier is this one, the Peace Gathering. This one is a photo from 2019, but we have been holding this kind of commemoration in front of the Japanese consulate since 2015. And the photo at the bottom, this one is Protect Our Ocean rally near the UN that was held last year. This was organized to raise awareness on Japan's recent plan to dump radioactive wastewater into the Pacific Ocean. And I'm going to talk about more in details later. So as we commemorate the 77th anniversary of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I would like to express my deepest regrets to Hibakusha, who had to endure unspeakable hardships for nearly 8 decades. And my thoughts are also with the descendants of Hibakusha and crew members of Japanese fishing boats affected by the nuclear testing in the Pacific, who are struggling with physical and psychological impacts that might have been caused by the atomic bombings or testing. And these Japanese fishing crew members, they are still fighting in court in Japan, seeking for recognition as nuclear victims and also seeking for workers' compensation. And I also like to express my solidarity to those affected by the ongoing Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster. So this is a presentation I was asked to prepare for another event to show the connections between nuclear energy and nuclear weapons. So I'd like to show you some of the history of atomic cover-ups in Japan. So I'm not going to explain in details today, but the cover-up started soon after the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings, when the United States occupied Japan until 1952. And it continued even after the end of occupation, when the nuclear testing in the Pacific ignited a nationwide anti-nuclear movement in Japan. And both Japan and the United States downplayed the humanitarian impacts of the nuclear testing. And as a result, nuclear power plants were built in rural communities, such as in Fukushima. And atomic cover-ups in Japan, unfortunately, continue today in the wake of the Fukushima Daiichi disaster that started in 2011. And Japan is still in a state of nuclear emergency. Tens of thousands are still displaced. Thyroid cancer, a rare disease among children, is increasing in children in Fukushima. And at least 3 nuclear reactors experienced meltdowns due to the loss of cooling capability. And to avoid another huge radioactive release into the environment, they need to constantly cool the highly radioactive melted core of damaged nuclear reactors using water. Therefore, a large amount of radioactive wastewater is stored at the Fukushima Daiichi site. Now, Japan has plans to dump nearly 1.3 million metric tons of radioactive wastewater from the damaged Fukushima Daiichi into the Pacific Ocean, starting from the spring of 2023 and continuing for more than 30 years. In the past, they admitted that at least 64 radioactive isotopes are present in the contaminated water, and tritium and carbon-14 cannot be isolated at all by the existing filtering system. 3 independent human rights experts appointed by United Nations Human Rights Council expressed their concerns that such dumping of radioactive wastewater could impact millions of lives and livelihoods in the Pacific region and imposes considerable risks to the full enjoyment of human rights of concerned populations in and beyond the borders of Japan. And Fukushima residents strongly oppose the dumping plan, and there are alternative options suggested by civil society groups, such as building large tanks at the site, but these alternatives were not even considered. And unfortunately, the United States and the IAEA support the dumping plan. And what is worse is that TEPCO, the company that manages Fukushima Daiichi, has already started construction at the site to build underground tunnels in preparation of the dumping. So please reach out to elected officials and express your concerns to stop this outrageous plan. And last year, the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, or TPNW, entered into force, and it outlawed nuclear weapons under international law. I highly welcome the treaty that aims to eliminate nuclear weapons by emphasizing the catastrophic humanitarian consequences. It also recognizes the disproportionate impact of nuclear weapons activities on indigenous peoples and the disproportionate impact of radiation on women and girls. However, its preamble upholds nuclear energy. It says right here, emphasizing that nothing in this treaty shall be interpreted as affecting the inalienable right of its states parties to develop research, production, and use of nuclear energy for peaceful purposes without discrimination. They call nuclear energy peaceful use of nuclear. And furthermore, the treaty does not explicitly prohibit global uranium trade with nuclear armed states, thereby protecting uranium enterprise. This June, the first meeting of states parties to the TPNW was held. To our surprise, more than a dozen states parties in the global south expressed their support for nuclear energy during the meeting. Some observer states that have not ratified the treaty also expressed the importance of keeping the language on nuclear energy. And nuclear energy is deeply rooted in systemic racism and nuclear colonialism that continues to disproportionately impact marginalized communities, indigenous peoples, women, and children. And uranium mining for nuclear fuel is a highly extractive process that severely affects the health of residents. So we can achieve the total elimination of nuclear weapons as long as we allow commercial use of enriched uranium and plutonium. The first modern nuclear power plant built at Hanford site produced plutonium for the first nuclear testing in New Mexico, impacting downwinders, and produced plutonium for the Nagasaki bomb that killed more than 70,000 people, injuring an additional 70,000. And residents in the US also still impacted by the toxic and radioactive contamination from the site and other nuclear facilities of the United States. And we need to recognize that nuclear reactors are developed to produce plutonium, to build nuclear weapons, to kill civilians, and generating electricity was a secondary function. So we tend to debate about nuclear war caused by nuclear weapons, but nuclear power plants and storage sites of highly radioactive spent fuel are pre-deployed weapons that are all vulnerable to catastrophic nuclear disasters. And we need to shift the inaccurate narrative of nuclear energy from peaceful to violent, because the origin, existence, and potential of nuclear energy are all extremely violent. We also have to stop creating more radioactive waste by shutting down nuclear power plants and nuclear facilities, because nuclear cannot coexist with humanity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It is very important to be aware, this itself, nuclear weapons itself is not just one part of the war itself, but they're all connected to our daily life too. So, it's always awareness is very, very important, interconnectedness. And then even like when we talk about, the earth, the protecting our earth, and then many aspects are all connected. So anyway, thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. So this time I would like to have a speaker from the Nagasaki Ken, as well as Nagasaki Kenjinkai, New York, and then also speech, the greeting from the Hiroshima Kenjinkai. First of all, Taku, Nobu Kimoto-san. Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
I couldn't find you. Sorry.
Thank you very much introducing Nakagaki-san. My name is Nobu Kimoto, president of the New York Nagasaki Kenjinkai. I live in New York for 25 years. I was born in Nagasaki Prefecture. Also, I'm a Hibakusha Nisei. My father is a Hibakusha. However, until last year, I have been ashamed to admit that I didn't even know the difference between signing and laughing a treaty. This year in June, at the first meeting of state parties to the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons held in Vienna, and the NPT review conference is underway at the United Nations now. In January, the leaders of the 5 nuclear weapon states issued a joint statement saying there are no winners in nuclear war, and we must never fight it. But the following month, Russia invaded Ukraine. At the same time, it threatened to use nuclear weapons. As long as multiple nations in human society possess nuclear weapons, there is no peaceful future ahead. Recognizing that the abolition of nuclear weapons is a first step toward world peace, I believe that it is more important than anything else to continue to appeal to nuclear abolition from cities around the world in order to protect this beautiful earth and contribute to human society. So my father was born in Nagasaki and was exposed to the atomic bomb when he was 12 years old. And on August 9th, the day of the atomic bombing of Nagasaki, it was a school day. He told me that he vividly remembers how the windows of the school were blown out at that moment. And a couple of days later, so many people who were still breathing after the bombing were lining up in rows all over the schoolyard of a nearby elementary school. And those number has been increased day by day. Many of them had their faces and bodies burned off, and most of the Hibakusha who were brought in were in no condition to be treated by doctors and recover. And most of them died over time as the days passed slowly under the blazing midsummer sun. At the same time, there was no crematorium nearby to dispose the bodies. So they were left in the schoolyard, and the stench wafted out from their bodies, making it impossible for them to approach to school. My father told me that the smell of that time remained in his memory as an unforgettable smell for the rest of his life. My father, who also shared his atomic bomb experience with me, finally passed away last December on his 89th birthday. We Hibakusha Nisei believe that it is our most important mission to pass on the stories we had inherited from our parents to the next generation, so that the experience of the atomic bombing will never be repeated. I would like to continue to speak for the abolition of nuclear weapons, and I preach this to my father. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kimoto-san. So next we'd like to have Taku Furumoto-san will come up from the Hiroshima-kai. So thank you. And Furumoto-san, お願いします。
Good morning, people in Nagasaki, and good evening, people in New York City. My name is Taku Furumoto. I'm a survivor of Japanese American internment camp during the World War II. Currently, I'm an honorary chairman of New York Hiroshima-kai, and also I founded the Hiroshima-kai in 1987. Tonight, I'm pinch hitting for Chairman Mitzi Takeuchi, who is busy together with Setsuko Taro, Nobel Peace winner, with the events for the United Nations. Since 1994, we have been advocating non-proliferation of nuclear weapons and propagating peace around the world. We have been doing this by moving one pebble at a time here in New York City. I firmly believe that it is this one pebble that we move throughout the world that will someday realize the peace on this earth without the nuclear weapons. Seeing the aftermath of atomic bombing and living in Hiroshima from January 1946 to May of 1956, and facing the actual combat war in Vietnam from February 1970 to February 1971, serving this country, I understand the cruelty of war and how priceless the peace is. Like Hibakusha, we will continue to propagate peace and seek non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. It is especially important to commemorate August 6th and August 9th in Hiroshima and Nagasaki as symbol of world peace. We hope that the people in Ukraine and Russia is watching our program so that the peace settlement can be reached without further devastation. We'd like to thank Reverend Nakagaki and his Heiwa Foundation, an interfaith religious group who have tirelessly held this event since 1994 to commemorate Hiroshima Nagasaki Peace Memorial, and the participants who had gathered to commemorate this year's event. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Taku Furumoto. So we are very grateful. Always you have been with us for 28 years, 29 years. You're the one who participating with us from the beginning, and so I'm very grateful for your support, and I hope we'll continue to next 50 years maybe, but so the spirit of going, and so thank you very much. Okay, so now Nagasaki ceremony has been started, and so I would like to change to the the screen. This is an English one, but by the way, those people who wanted to watch in Japanese, I send you if you can watch the what do you call it? my chat, I put some of the address for Japanese session, Japanese language one, what's happening now, and the English right now is another one. So Chris, I mean, so we'll watch here will be English. So if you like to stay with us, that will be fine. And then we will probably finish the meditation at the very end. Okay. So now they are offering the flowers. They offer water. Now they're offering the flowers from all the different representatives. So anyway, thank you very much for everyone to join, and so we'll be watching together for the live from Nagasaki.
The distinguished guests will offer flowers. Mr. Kishida Fumio, Prime Minister of Japan. Mr. Hosoda Hiroyuki, the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Mr. Otsuji Hidehisa, the President of the House of Councillors. Mr. Hayashi Yoshimasa, Minister of Foreign Affairs. Mr. Goto Shigeyuki, Minister of Health, Labor and Welfare. Mr. Kaneko Genjiro, Minister of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries. Ms. Kamikawa Yoko, representing Liberal Democratic Party. Mr. Izumi Kenta, representing the Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan. Mr. Yanagase Hirofumi, representing Japan Innovation Party. Mr. Yamaguchi Natsuo, representing Komeito Party. Mr. Tamaki Yuichiro, representing the Democratic Party for the People. Mr. Koike Akira, representing Japan Communist Party. Ms. Kushibuchi Mari, representing Reiwa Shinsengumi Party. Ms. Fukushima Mizuho, representing the Social Democratic Party. Ms. Nakamitsu Izumi, the United Nations Under-Secretary General and High Representative for Disarmament Affairs. Mr. Oishi Kengo, Governor of Nagasaki. Mr. Nakashima Hiroyoshi, the Speaker of Nagasaki Prefectural Assembly. Mr. Matsui Kazumi, Mayor of Hiroshima City. Mr. Sasaki Jukichi, Speaker of Hiroshima City Council. Mr. Kikawa Makoto, representing Hibakusha in Hiroshima City. Ms. Kuroki Sumiko and Mr. Iketomi Tadao, representing bereaved families of deceased Hibakusha in Japan. Mr. Jordi Laik Kuruko, Head of Delegation in Japan International Committee of the Red Cross. His Excellency Mr. So Han, Ambassador of the Union of Myanmar. His Excellency Mr. Miguel Ángel Ramirez Ramos, Ambassador of the Republic of Cuba. His Excellency Mr. Muksin Kuja Abudurahmonov, Ambassador of the Republic of Uzbekistan. His Excellency Mr. Kwacha Chisiza, Ambassador of the Republic of Malawi. Mr. Suzuki Tsuneo, representative of National Council of Japan Nuclear-Free Local Authorities and Mayor of Fujisawa City. Now we invite the representatives of attending organizations to offer floral tributes.
It is almost 2 minutes past 11. We will pause for a moment of silent prayer for the souls of the atomic bomb victims and for eternal peace. Ladies and gentlemen, you're kindly requested to rise. Silent prayer. Thank you. You may be seated. Nagasaki Peace Declaration. The mayor of Nagasaki City will deliver the Peace Declaration to the world. The declaration will be sent to the heads of all UN member states and to the local government bodies in Japan. It will also be transmitted to the world via the internet. Nagasaki Peace Declaration. The first time the World Conference Against H bombs, which aims for the abolition of nuclear weapons, was held here in Nagasaki was the year 1956. 11 years after the atomic bomb that caused the death and injury of 150,000 people was dropped on the city. Once Watanabe Chieko, one of the Hibakusha, entered the venue, there was an instant showers of camera flashes. This was because Ms. Watanabe was being carried in the arms of her mother when she was arrived. She was exposed to the atomic bombing at a factory where she had been working as a 16-year-old mobilized student and became paralyzed from the waist down after being crushed under collapsed metal beams upon arrival. Voices from those assembled could be heard saying, "Stop photographing her, she's not some kind of showpiece." And the venue fell into a state of commotion. Having reached the speaker's podium, Ms. Watanabe said in a clear voice, "People of the world, please take photographs and then ensure that nobody like me is ever made again." Leaders of the nuclear states, can you hear the cry of her soul within these words? A cry demanding with all her heart and soul that no matter what, nuclear weapons must not be used. In January this year, the leaders of the United States, Russia, the United Kingdom, France, and China released a joint statement affirming that a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought. However, the very next month, Russia invaded Ukraine. Threats of using nuclear weapons have been made, sending shivers throughout the globe. This has shown the world that the use of nuclear weapons is not a groundless fear, but a tangible and present crisis. It has made us confront the reality that as long as there are nuclear weapons in the world, humankind constantly faces the risk that nuclear weapons might be used due to mistaken human judgments, mechanical malfunctions, or in acts of terrorism. Under the notion of trying to protect nations with nuclear weapons, the number of nations dependent upon them increases, and the world becomes a more and more dangerous place. The belief that even though nuclear weapons are possessed, they probably will not be used is a fantasy, nothing more than a mere hope. They exist, so they can be used. We must recognize that ridding ourselves of nuclear weapons is the only realistic way of protecting the Earth and humankind's future at this very moment. Two important meetings for the abolition of nuclear weapons continue this year. In June, at the first meeting of state parties to the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, TPNW, held in Vienna, a frank and sober debate unfolded that included observer nations with a stance of opposing the treaty, and both the draft declaration adopted at the meetings, which expressed a strong will to achieve a world free of nuclear weapons, and a specific action plan were adopted. Furthermore, the TPNW and the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, NPT, were clearly reconfirmed as mutually complementing each other. Currently, the review conference of the parties to the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons is taking place at the United Nations headquarters in New York. Over the past 50 or so years, the NPT has, as a treaty that prevents the number of nuclear states from increasing and promotes nuclear disarmament, shouldered great expectations and roles. However, treaty and decisions made at meetings have not been put into practice, and trust in the treaty itself has become tenuous. The nuclear states hold a particular responsibility due to the NPT. It is required that the polarizing nature of the Ukraine conflict is overcome, the promises made in the NPT are reaffirmed, and a concrete process for nuclear arms reduction is shown. I hereby appeal to the government of Japan and members of the National Diet. As a nation with a constitution that renounces war, Japan must exercise leadership in pursuing peace diplomacy within international society, especially during times of peace. As a nation possessing the three non-nuclear principles, instead of moving towards nuclear sharing or other forms of dependency on nuclear weapons, please lead the way in debate that will achieve progress in the direction of non-nuclear dependency, such as promoting discussions on the Northeast Asia nuclear weapon-free zone concept. Furthermore, as the only nation to have suffered wartime atomic bombings, I request the government of Japan to sign and ratify the TPNW and become a propellant force in the achievement of a world free of nuclear weapons. People of the world, every day we see and hear the reality of war through television and social media. The daily lives of many people are being devoured by the fires of war. The use of atomic bombs on both Hiroshima and Nagasaki was due to war. War always causes suffering for us, the ordinary people living in civil society. And that is precisely why it is so important that we raise our voices and say, war is no good. Our civil society can become either a keystone to peace or a hotbed of war. Instead of a culture of war that spreads distrust, fans terror, and seeks to resolve matters through violence, let us make untiring efforts to ingrain in civil society a culture of peace that spreads trust, respects others, and seeks resolution through dialogue. Let each and every one of us who demands peace adopt the slogan of the Hiroshima Nagasaki Peace Messengers. Our strength may be modest, but we are not powerless. Nagasaki will, in conjunction with the power of the young people, continue to involve itself in activities to foster a culture of peace. The average age of Hibakusha has now reached over 84. I ask that the government of Japan provide, as a matter of urgency, improved support for the Hibakusha and relief measures for those who experienced the atomic bombings but have not yet received official recognition as bombing survivors. I express my heartfelt condolences to all those who lost their lives in the atomic bombings. Resolved to make Nagasaki the last place to suffer an atomic bombing, I hereby declare that Nagasaki will continue to do the utmost to realize the abolition of nuclear weapons and everlasting world peace as we work together with Hiroshima, Okinawa, and Fukushima, a victim of radiation contamination, and expand our alliance with people around the world who are trying to help cultivate peace. Taue Tomihisa, Mayor of Nagasaki, August 9th, 2022.
Pledge for Peace. Mr. Miyata Takeshi, representing the Hibakusha, will deliver the Pledge for Peace. Pledge for Peace. First and foremost, I would like to express my sincere condolences to the many victims in Ukraine. Such a merciless, indiscriminate attack reminds me of the atomic bombing of Nagasaki 77 years ago that caused the suffering of many innocent people. it is something that absolutely cannot be condoned. On February 24th of this year, the air-raid silence that rang out in Ukraine inspired the same fear of that picadon or atomic bomb in me. On August 9th, 77 years ago, I was in our home 2.4 kilometers from the hypocenter. When the atomic bomb was dropped, my small 5-year-old body was thrown back from our 8-tatami mat room to the front entrance of our house by the blast, and I woke up in my mother's arms. I still remember her heartbeat. That night, a nurse came across the mountain to our house for shelter. Her hair was blown back, and her left eye was hanging out. She died right in front of us as she begged for water. My father went to Matsuyama-machi, the hypocenter, to help victims of the bombing. There, he found the charred bodies of my uncle and his wife. And my father died of leukemia 5 years later. I am now 82 years old. My cancer, of which I began to show symptoms 10 years ago, is getting worse and causes me great distress every day. However, many of the Hibakusha atomic bomb survivors are living every day contending with suffering greater than I. I call to all attending members of the National Diet as well as members of the prefectural and municipal councils. Meet with the Hibakusha. Listen to how they have suffered. Learn the truth of the atomic bombing and relay what you learn to the world. In June, I participated in the first meeting of the state parties to the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, TPNW, in Vienna. At the venue and on the street, I wore a vest on which I wrote Hibakusha and called out to the people, "Please visit Nagasaki. To see is to believe. No more Nagasaki. Stop the violence in Ukraine." It is now 77 years after World War II, and Russia has implied that they would use nuclear weapons, exposing the world to the threat of nuclear war. Some members of the Japan's Diet are proponents of nuclear sharing, a concept which is antithetical to the Hibakusha's wishes to cease reliance on a nuclear umbrella. Nuclear sharing is a dated way of thinking that relies on nuclear weapons, one that is founded in the principle of fight fire with fire. It is a concept that we are wholly against. Nuclear weapons are not a deterrent. It is at this moment that Japan should reconsider the importance it places on the nuclear umbrella and rather devote itself to becoming a nation of peace. In order to do so, Japan should learn from its history, declare a Northeast Asia nuclear weapons free zone, and strictly adhere to Article 9 of the Constitution of Japan. The people of Japan's strong commitment to never wage war again and to renounce war as a nation out of respect for the more than 3 million people that died during World War II and the 200,000 victims of the Nagasaki atomic bombing has undoubtedly protected Japanese lives since the war. Peaceful diplomacy through dialogue is a task that we must tackle in the new age. I'm particularly looking forward to seeing how Prime Minister Kishida will take the lead in this regard as a representative of an atomic bomb site. Japan must sign and ratify the TPNW. Entering into force last year, the TPNW is a priceless treasure shared by humanity and the Hibakusha. It is a duty of the government of Japan, the only nation in the world to have suffered atomic bombings, and every one of its people to adhere to this treaty and act accordingly to it. The observer nations to the first meeting of the state parties to the TPNW expressed that they have high hopes for the treaty, which has given me courage. The Hibakusha have lived these 77 years overcoming grief and pain. We will continue to persevere and cooperate together with global civil society, believing in a bright, hopeful, nuclear weapons-free future. In this new age brought about by the TPNW, we vow to commit ourselves to passing on our wishes for the realization of a nuclear-free world to our children and our children's children. Miyata Takashi, Atomic Bomb Survivor Representative, August 9th, 2022. Children's Chorus. The song That Child will now be sung by children's choral group. Yamazato Elementary School, located close to the hypocenter, was obliterated in an instant by the atomic bomb, which took almost all the lives of the teachers and the school children who were there. Dr. Nagai Takashi wrote this song as a memorial to the souls of those children with a prayer that such a tragedy shall never be repeated again. Today, the sixth graders will sing this song, which has been sung at the Yamazato Elementary School for many years.
Our honored guests are invited to deliver their address. Mr. Kishida Fumio, the Prime Minister of Japan. "77 years ago this day, a single atomic bomb destroyed the city of Nagasaki in a mere instant, claiming the lives, futures, and livelihoods of some 70,000 people. Everything was burnt to the ground, and countless people perished on the streets and in the rivers. Even those who narrowly survived despite such miserable conditions suffered long-term health problems. As Prime Minister of Japan, I reverently express my sincere condolences to the souls who were victims of the atomic bomb here. I would also like to extend my heartfelt sympathy to those still suffering even now from the after effects of the atomic bomb. The tragedies of the day 77 years ago must never be repeated. This is the responsibility borne by Japan as the only country to have experienced the horror of nuclear devastation in war, and it is my pledge as Prime Minister of Japan. Threats to use nuclear weapons have been made, and even the use of nuclear weapons has become evident as a real issue. Meanwhile, momentum towards a world without nuclear weapons is said to be suffering a setback at present. Therefore, now more than ever, I will continue to appeal that the horrors of the use of nuclear weapons must not be repeated. Japan will walk decisively forward on the path towards a world without nuclear weapons, no matter how narrow, steep, or difficult the path may be. Towards that end, while firmly upholding the three non-nuclear principles, we will endeavor to connect the reality of a harsh security environment with the ideal of a world without nuclear weapons. The Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, NPT, serves as the foundation for those efforts, and the NPT Review Conference is taking place in New York at this very moment. I attended that conference the other day as the first Japanese Prime Minister to do so. There, I urged the international community to unite in maintaining and strengthening the NPT regime, which has supported global peace and security over half a century. Even in a difficult security environment, we must continue our history of non-use of nuclear weapons and efforts to make Nagasaki the site of the last atomic bombing. Transparency, continued reduction of nuclear weapons, and nuclear non-proliferation remain important efforts. What supports determined steps towards realizing a world without nuclear weapons are efforts to communicate the devastation of using nuclear weapons and to pass down memories to future generations, regardless of borders. Japan will work in tandem with the many who wish for a world without nuclear weapons, including atomic bomb survivors, in its ongoing efforts to promote understanding of the tragic realities of the atomic bombings. The government, accepting the necessity of relief measures covering health and medical services and welfare of atomic bomb survivors, will continue to advance relief measures in a comprehensive manner while staying in tune with atomic bomb survivors who are advancing in years, including by conducting screenings for recognizing atomic bomb diseases as early as possible. Here in Nagasaki, which, thanks to the tireless efforts of its citizens, had successfully developed into an international city of culture, I would like to pledge once again that Japan will do its utmost to realize a world without nuclear weapons and lasting peace. I wish to conclude with my heartfelt prayers for the repose of the souls of those who fell victim to the atomic bombing, and pray sincerely for the inner peace of the bereaved families and the atomic bomb survivors, as well as all the attendees today and the people of Nagasaki City. Kishida Fumio, Prime Minister of Japan, August 6, 2022.
The United Nations Under Secretary General and High Representative for Disarmament, Nakatsu Izumi, will deliver the message of UN Secretary General. I will read the message of UN Secretary General in Japanese. It is an honor to send this message to the people of Nagasaki. On this day 4 years ago, I had the privilege of visiting the hallowed ground of your city. I was humbled by the sheer devastation caused by a single weapon of mass destruction. I was forcefully reminded that this can never happen again. And I was inspired by the courage of the Hibakusha, who continue their brave crusade despite their unimaginable losses. Their message of peace and nuclear disarmament is as powerful and relevant as ever. I pledge to do everything in my power to make sure it continues to be heard everywhere. The use of nuclear weapons against Hiroshima and Nagasaki caused a humanitarian catastrophe unique in history. It heralded the dawn of a new era in which humanity could bring about its own extinction. Since then, for 77 years, the threat of nuclear devastation has haunted humanity. Today, the prospect of nuclear conflict has been brought back into the realm of possibility. The Russian invasion of Ukraine reminds us that we are, at any time, just minutes from possible annihilation. Meanwhile, dangerous rhetoric and nuclear threats demonstrate that these are weapons of brinkmanship and coercion. And once again, we hear false claims that nuclear weapons provide security. True security can never be achieved through nuclear weapons. It is achieved through dialogue, negotiation, mutual respect, and commitment to international law. True security means ending the nuclear threat through a world free of nuclear weapons. Many states have demonstrated their support for nuclear disarmament by signing and ratifying the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. But as a global community, we need to reinforce the taboo against the use of nuclear weapons, lower the global numbers of nuclear weapons, and take urgent steps to reduce the risks of nuclear cataclysm. The Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons is the bedrock of the nuclear disarmament regime. I urge the parties to the treaty currently meeting in New York to take the opportunity to set the world back on the path to sanity. In these times of high tensions and low levels of trust, we should draw on the lessons of Nagasaki. Disarmament, reconciliation, and the pursuit of peace are the only way forward for all our sakes. Thank you. August 9th, 2022, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
Mr. Oishi Kengo, Governor of Nagasaki Prefecture. On the occasion of Nagasaki Peace Ceremony, I offer my heartfelt prayers to the victims of the atomic bombing, together with the people of Nagasaki Prefecture. 77 years ago this day, a single atomic bomb that exploded over the city of Nagasaki deprived so many people of their precious lives, and even those who narrowly survived were left with incurable scars on their body and mind and health problems. Through this hardship, Nagasaki has been reborn as a city abound with greenery, thanks to the efforts and thoughts of its people. And because of the memory of the hardship that they endured, Nagasaki has become a city with a strong desire for peace. Amid growing concern over the possible use of nuclear weapons due to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the first meeting of the Conference of the State Parties to the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons was held in June this year, and the NPT Review Conference was convened on the 1st of this month. Prime Minister Kishida became the first Japanese Prime Minister to attend the NPT Review Conference, and I was there to convey the strong desire of the people of Nagasaki to make Nagasaki the last A-bombed city. As the only country to have experienced nuclear war, Japan is in a position to appeal to the world for nuclear abolition. I strongly hope that the Japanese government will play a role as a bridge between countries with different positions and lead international discussions toward nuclear abolition more than ever before. In order to realize a world without nuclear weapons, It is necessary for all nations to share the belief that nuclear weapons must never be used and to engage in dialogue and action. I urge the leaders of each country to visit the A-bombed city, listen to the voices of A-bomb survivors, and learn the real aspects of the atomic bombings. This year, one of the Hibakusha organizations that had led the peace movement in Nagasaki was dissolved due to aging of the members and other reasons. We will succeed the will of the A-bomb survivors, strive to develop human resources to pass on the realities of the atomic bombings to future generations, expand opportunities for peace education, and work with people of Nagasaki Prefecture to convey our desire for peace. In addition, Hibakusha certification for those who are exposed to the black rain in Hiroshima has been underway since April of this year. However, those in Nagasaki are not included. We ask the Japanese government to please open the way to provide relief to those in Nagasaki who were in similar circumstances. August 9th is an unforgettable day for people of Nagasaki Prefecture. It is a day of prayer and a day to pledge that we will not allow a nuclear devastation to occur for the third time. I hereby offer my words of prayers to the deceased victims of the atomic bombing, vowing to make further efforts towards realizing a peaceful world free of nuclear weapons. Oishi Kengo, Governor of Nagasaki Prefecture, August 9th, 2022. Telegrams and messages from various sources are posted on the board on the right side of the entrance to the ceremony venue. So we invite you to take a look at them.
This is a chorus of Senbazuru or 1,000 paper cranes. This piece was composed as a choral piece to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the atomic bombing. The lyrics were written by Yokoyama Kanae, a resident of Chiba Prefecture, who was selected from among the public who contributed their pieces. The music was written by Ms. Oshima Michiru, a composer from Nagasaki. Today, we will have the members of Junshin Senior Girls High School, Michiru Oshima's alma mater, sing the song for us. The conductor is their teacher Matsumoto Kayoko, and they will be accompanied by Uchida Makoto, who has been playing the music for today's ceremony.
So I think we'll be finishing here for our parts, and this will be the last song, I think. But if you like to stay, you can watch it. It should be the last announcement.
The Nagasaki Peace Declaration delivered today represents the ardent wish of the people of Nagasaki. With renewed commitment, we will continue to strive for everlasting world peace. Thank you very much for your kind cooperation in ensuring smooth proceedings of today's event. This concludes the 77th Nagasaki Peace Memorial Ceremony. Thank you.
Maybe stop now then.
For those who wish to offer prayers at the Peace Memorial statue, please remain seated until the venue is ready.
I don't know.
And those who wish to leave now are also requested to remain seated until...
Oh, okay. Thank you. So, yeah, I have another thing. Okay, so this concludes even our parts too. So I thank you very much for joining today.